The situation at Gold One mine in Springs remains tense as AMCU members continue to demand the recognition of the union at the mine. Yesterday, police firing rubber bullets and tear gas to disperse miners who were protesting outside the mine. Over 10 workers were arrested for public violence and contravening the court order which bars them from striking. Now, let's get an update on exactly what the situation is at the mine, and we're joined by the mine's head of legal, Ziyaad Hassam. Mr. Hassam, thank you very much for your time. Let me start by asking what the situation is at the mine, given a resurgence of what looks to be strike action.
So I think the situation over the weekend was fairly tense, and it obviously escalated yesterday morning. There were several incidents which led to the arrest of 11 people at the last count. But as of yesterday afternoon, we filed our response to the AMCU application, where we indicated that we are not in opposition to the application and we're not in opposition to the time frame. So we will be in court on Thursday, and if AMCU gets the order that they seek, the ballot which will need to be held will be done next week, Tuesday. So we wrote to AMCU after we filed our papers just to communicate that we'd like them to start communicating to their members to show a bit of restraint, in that the reason why they were protesting in the first place is now governed by a court process which we are not in opposition to. So the situation today is fairly calm. For the most part, operations are back to normal. Yeah. We still are on limited capacity, and we haven't yet recalled everybody back to work.
Let's talk about the balloting process, because that is what workers seem to be agitating for, to say speed up this balloting process. You've already made reference to timelines. What exactly are they demanding?
So if we take a step back, the closed shop agreement with the NUM remains valid until there is a threat to it and it's legally dissolved. Now, that threat has come through a few weeks ago when we received a petition from AMCU. We handed that over to NUM, and it's then NUM's responsibility to communicate to its members and to facilitate the logistics around a ballot. They've not come back to us with a firm timeline as yet, and I think growing frustrated with the pace that the NUM is operating at, AMCU then instituted proceedings to take the NUM to court. And that's where we're at the moment. So the process and the timelines that they're asking for in court is that if they are successful and if the judge rules in their favor on Thursday, the ballot would need to be held by next week, Tuesday. In the meantime, we are still in communication with the NUM to try to facilitate a solution which would prevent us from going to court in the first place. So if they were willing to take matters in their own hands and to voluntarily dissolve the closed shop agreement, we could then forego the court process and get to a point where AMCU is recognized in a shorter space of time.
That then, Ziyaad, it calls into question the mine management's responsibility here when it comes to security of workers. Because, in essence, based on what you are saying, this closed shop agreement is about the NUM and whether or not they are willing to voluntarily relinquish it. And you add to that the balloting process. And if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that it is left to the NUM to initiate the logistics around it. Common sense dictates that the NUM is fighting for turf, and therefore they will probably play delaying tactics up until a point where they can see that they're no longer able to delay the inevitable, if you like, but that is going to cause friction among workers. That is going to be left at your door, is it not, if someone gets killed?
Well, look, we certainly don't want to start talking about worst-case scenarios. I mean, I think we take the safety of our employees very seriously, and that's our primary concern. And it's really for that reason that we suspended operations last week, Thursday, on the basis that we couldn't guarantee the safety of our employees. Now, in terms of the way forward on the closed shop agreement, we do have to respect the legal process, and it's not as though we are abdicating our responsibility. In terms of the closed shop agreement, if there is a threat, that needs to be passed on to the NUM, and the process is essentially theirs to drive. However, we have been putting a significant amount of pressure on the NUM to bring this to a close as soon as they possibly can. So we are trying to put that pressure onto them, and at the same time, AMCU is putting the pressure onto them by instituting proceedings in the labor court. So one way or another, either through our interactions with them or through a court process, this is going to come to a conclusion, we hope, in a fairly short space of time. Unfortunately, the reality is that unions are going to fight for their turf, and as long as NUM has a legal basis within which they can fight for that, we need to respect those processes.
Sure. And how much of this disquiet, how much of this wrangling has affected production at the mine?
Oh, it's had a significant adverse effect on production. We are certainly counting the cost on that. It's in the tens of millions of rands per day. In addition to that, we're having to hire private security, additional contractors on site. So the knock-on effects and the costs that we've incurred in the last month are significant. The costs are secondary to the safety of our employees, so that again is our primary concern, but certainly from a production point of view, this has not helped us.
Ziyaad Hassam, let me thank you very much for your time. He is a legal head at Gold One Mine.